I agree to a lot of points.
And you're
We live?
Yes, we are live.
We in here.
We in here. This nigga here.
Oh,
I said, do this shit.
It was
full
working.
hand. It be working. But we back. We here. What was y'all talking about before we get started?
Was it Dolores stuff?
Yeah.
I'm double fisting right now.
Talking about some double fisting.
She is mean.
But with that being said, we back with another episode of Eavesdrop. And tonight we're going to be doing another set of reaction videos. It's kind of going to be a blend this time though, because I got an article too that I want to talk about that kind of speaks to the topic of discussion. Are we going? Let me make sure I got my notes.
We're doing some academic stuff. This is my type of jazz.
Yeah, I got my notes because we're going to bring in, I don't know, what was it, the name of it? Bridgerton?
Bridgerton.
The show, you know.
Shonda Rhimes on Netflix.
I seen one episode, so for the show, I watched it. You know, gotta check it out. I may watch a few more episodes.
I'm watching it.
Wasn't too captivated. I did like the visual aesthetics.
I'll say this: Shonda Rhimes. Not, and this is one of the things that we can go past. We know she's intelligent. That's given. We know that she's aware. That's a given. We know that she knows her craft. That's a given. And anyone who doesn't respect that, you just don't respect craft. But what Shonda Rhimes does well is that she plays and understands how the white imagination and the black imagination wants to meld together our narratives and stories of our life. Mm-hmm. And it feeds a fantasy that'll never be, but that's here. We'll get to that later on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so with that being said, for everybody who is joining us right now, excuse the sound of my voice. I don't know what came over me. The sneezies just now or whatever or something. But like the video, share the video.
The sneezies.
Oh,
that's the key. You got a cold? Nah, my nose has just got the sneezies. I don't know what's wrong. It's just got the sneezies. 2 hours later. Get your ass in bed, boy.
Hell no, you gotta take off because that nigga sick.
Black moms, I ain't taking your ass to the doctor. Put on that coat, boy.
Or you take this ginger ale.
Put some Robitussin, take some Robitussin, rub some Vicks and stare at the covers. We be good in the morning.
How much time did that bitch die?
I can't breathe. That's your damn fault for going out here with no coat on.
Man, but with that being said, you know, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and check everything, make sure everything is copacetic on all of the different platforms.
Yeah, here's.
Like that video. It say the mic is good on my end. Like that video, share that video, comment. And if you are wanting to call in, what I'll do is, Quan, let me go ahead and get the goddamn link invitation so that people can call in. And what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to drop it to you now. Bing, bam, pow. But if you can, while you watching us, man, how have y'all week been? It's been a long week for me.
That's no in the comments.
It's a long week.
It's been a long week. Without you, man. And I tell you all about it when I'm drinking some hay.
I just sent it to you. I just sent it to you, so you should have it in your text. And be the best, be the rest. I don't know what I'm saying, but I got on a homosensitive vest.
Oh,
yeah.
Y'all slap. I'm tired of fucking cooking this fish. That just energy out of me.
Nah, I just wanted to have a little bit more fun before we start this jump open.
Well, it's always fun to me.
It's going to be a touchy situation when we get into it.
Touchy for who?
So we're going to jump right into it today. We are going to be talking about George Elliot, the marriage plot, hypergamy. How do you pronounce that word?
Hypergamy.
No, not hypergamy, but endogamy.
Endogamy is ENDO. That's marrying
Got
within your class.
Yeah.
Hypergamy is marrying above.
Because I wanted to say endogamy.
You said
real. I wanted to say endogamy. Real.
Endogamy. Go ahead, say it, son. Who cares? Who cares? The one thing I love about E40 and big rappers, like, who cares how things is spelled? It's how you say it.
Even in 2021, it's about my truth. I don't care about what the rest of the world has to say.
You call those algorithms.
My truth. I say the word how I want to say the word. I don't care about any of that other stuff.
So if I tell you that you said the word wrong, does that mean I get canceled? Because I'm a gatekeeper?
Yes, you do get canceled. Why are you telling me? You patriarchy me, whatever.
You patriarchy. So whatever trap card you can use.
And my language is a part of a protected class.
That too.
You know what I'm saying? So
I can say what I want.
They might treat us like we black Reddit. Like y'all bunch of black Reddit boys.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead before we get into this conversation. I am going to bring up the first video because this is another reaction video. We just gonna jump right into it. We didn't have our little joke time. But let me go ahead and share my screen for all of those who are watching. You got the Zoom link, fam?
Yeah.
All right, boom. Clutch. If you want to call in and give your opinion, what we're going to do in the order is going to be, we're going to watch this video. I'm going to get my take. Q going to give his take. Quan will give his take. And when you're in the queue, if you want to jump in and say what you got to say, we are going to be here and ready. Just give us our time. You know, maybe short, maybe long, but we some long-winded motherfuckers. So hey.
It's a belt-weight thing.
It is what it is. So with that being said, I'm gonna just go ahead, bring that up real close for y'all. This is George Elliot, and she is talking about
someone is talking about her because she's dead.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
She's long been passed. If she was still alive, I wouldn't know her secret.
Man.
Like, tell me, white lady, how do you make it?
I was gonna say that was right because you showed me the picture of her earlier. That's definitely her. So, yeah, my apologies. This is why you need people.
I don't apologize.
No, you do. We got to teach the people how to apologize and have discourse. Hubris is running rampant in America.
Oh, you talking about our leadership?
Yeah.
Okay.
And no, the masses too.
I don't talk about the masses.
But without further ado, we're gonna get into this. So if y'all could just go ahead and listen, if you got your comments or whatever, cue up.
He's wise, but there's some men who do react to that. They think so much of themselves already, and that's how it is, there's old bachelors. The answer to the question on everyone's lips was soon known. George Elliot was Marian Evans, a journalist and translator aged 39, who had both good reason to employ a pseudonym and personal experience to give the ring of truth to her presentation of the pleasures and pains of family and community life. A brief sketch of George Eliot's ordinary, extraordinary life would run as follows. On 22nd of November, 1819, George Elliot was born Marianne Evans at South Farm on the Arbury Estate in Warwickshire, just outside Nuneaton. She was the third child of the second marriage of Robert Evans, estate manager to the great Newdigate family. Being exceptionally clever and serious, she did well at English and French in her local school and was permitted to use the library of the great house of the Newdigates, Arbury Hall. Her father also allowed her to have lessons in German and Italian from a local tutor. That was pretty unusual for a sort of lower middle class or upper working class girl in the 1820s.
And so y'all know, as we do here, we're gonna run it back just in case everybody didn't hear, just one more time, just so for everybody who might want to call in, you have a clear idea of what she's talking about, what she even said. write down your quick little notes, get it in you, boom, and I'm gonna run it back one more time.
Wise, but there's some men could do without that. They think so much of themselves already, and that's how it is. There's old bachelors. The answer to the question on everyone's lips was soon known. George Elliot was Marian Evans, a journalist and translator aged 39, who had both good reason to employ a pseudonym and personal experience to give the ring of truth to her presentation of the pleasures and pains of family and community life. A brief sketch of George Eliot's ordinary, extraordinary life would run as follows. On 22nd of November, 1819, George Elliot was born Marianne Evans at South Farm on the Arbury Estate in Warwickshire, just outside Nuneaton. She was the third child of the second marriage of Robert Evans, estate manager to the great Newdigate family. Being exceptionally clever and serious, she did well at English and French in her local school and was permitted to use the library of the great house of the Newdigates, Arbury Hall. Her father also allowed her to have lessons in German and Italian from a local tutor. That was pretty unusual for a sort of lower middle class or upper working class girl in the 1820s.
So we're gonna go ahead and stop the share. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do is, matter of fact, I'm gonna kick it to you.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna punt it to you because you are definitely more familiar with this specific topic, this specific regimen and expertise. So I would like to hear what you have to say about the take that she had, the work that she was referencing, and I'll follow in behind it.
Got you. So what I love about Professor Rosemary Ashton and delivering this lecture about George Elliot, because we were having this conversation in the background about the marriage plot, endogamy practices, hypergamy practices, and the things that we're seeing, it makes me laugh. Because I look at a lot of the things that we talk about in contemporary times, it's like, oh my God, this is so Victorian. And what I love about the lecture that's being delivered here is that Professor Ashton looks at how George Elliot or Murray and Evans examines what people call valid relationships. Because I had to read Middlemarch in high school, Firebirds, UDC, Let's Go. We had to read it, and I read it, and I was like, oh shit. So what people call white people are just people who were poor and decided to do an industrial area, like, if you ain't doing nothing, we ain't gonna marry you. If you ain't worth nothing, we're not gonna marry you. And what I love about George Elliot in Middlemarch is that George Elliot articulates quite plainly and quite clearly that your value is assessed upon how well you are able to facilitate a household, how well you are able to make someone happy, how well you are able to uphold status, how well you are able to pretend that the life that you live is so much better than someone else that they begin to envy you. And what I love about that is that it feeds into Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary. If you ever read George Eliot, you'll see that a lot of people romanticize marriage. They think that love marriage is this thing that always existed. And they think that once you get married and you spend all this money, you have this grand ceremony and this reception, you walk off like Disney say, happy ever after. And what George Eliot points out is that whether you have, especially in this clip, it's not that easy. And we can see that she comes from a lower middle class, working class, and this comes from Professor Ashton, again, Grantham College. We can see that it's not easy to have access, one, to information. Also, it's not easy to articulate the truth. It's not easy to say, although you may think that as, again, this is before the whole racism that we are articulating in America, once you look and peer behind the cloak of prestige, you begin to understand it's like, look, life is hard for everybody. Everyone has to make really tough, really difficult decisions. And when you begin to add money to that, we talk about this off mic all the time, money means time. Time means effort, and your effort dictates your emotions. So if you don't understand that and you go out there idealistically believing, oh, well, this man has money, I'm gonna marry to this man, but you don't know what that man does on a day in and day out to maintain that. More importantly, you don't know what it takes to maintain himself. So when we look at George Eliot's work, Edith Wharton's work, when you look at the marriage plot, you begin to see one of my favorite movies of all time is Payment on Demand by Betty Davis. It's a whole nother joint. You begin to see how young women are socialized to believe that if they marry the right man, then they get the right life. And it's like, that's not how that works. You can't marry into a good life. You can't marry into an easy life. The best life and the easiest life is the one you build.
Why can't you marry into a good life?
Because it's not the one you built. It's that simple. It's because, let's go to a dollhouse. I can't remember the dollhouse. But in a dollhouse, you have this patriarchal figure. And in this one, he's definitely a patriarchal figure who undermines the intelligence of his wife. You have a woman who has the money, but the only way she can have the money is if she does what her husband says. But she's more intelligent than her husband. So if you're trying to marry into a life, then you marry into that man's status. You marry into that man's well-being. And if you don't, because at this point in time, women suffer what's known as social death, meaning that the moment she is married, and you gave me the book, they were her property, the moment she is married, all of her assets fall underneath of him. She is no longer an individual. And that's why it's so great to talk about George Eliot, because he really talks about, different from Jane Austen, who romanticizes the marriage plot, who romanticizes, oh, I'm gonna fall for Mr. Darcy and everything's gonna be all great. George Eliot goes like, shit ain't great, son. Just because I got this nice house and just because I got all these fancy things don't mean I'm happy. And that's what I really brought to contemporary times, like this Victorian way of thinking, this Edwardian way of thinking isn't new. So if you come to me and say, well, you ain't got enough money for me, you ain't doing enough for me, I'm gonna look at you and go, so are you prepared to have my children to prove that you are status and that you are a woman? Are you prepared to be the angel of the household? Are you prepared to follow the 4 tenets of domesticity, of the cult domesticity, piety, submissiveness, and all those other different things? If you're not prepared for that, then don't hold me to the same standard in which the Victorians held themselves.
The patriarchal standards?
The patriarchal standards, the paterfamilias standards, the standards of everybody, behind every great man is a great woman. Is like, when I hear that, it's like you don't understand how you're subjugating yourself to another man's or another person's ambitions and not fighting for your own. And me being strictly egalitarian, I'm willing to fight beside you. I'm second wave feminism, free men, free women. Because the moment we free each other from these traditional roles, we begin to be individuals. But a lot of people, hint, hint, wink, wink, stump, stump, don't want to be a fucking individual. They want to model, they want to be the new Negro.
Yeah, so I'll jump in behind that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot that you said there, especially in terms about
I'm tired of glasses.
Hypergamy, seeking relationships that fulfill traditional roles. And what I would say to that, you know, and unfortunately I have to make it political because marriage is political.
Where is it not political at?
A lot of people wouldn't see necessarily marriage as political. So for a lot of people, because it's divorced from, again, the epicenter and the foundation of what it was, to your point, I think a lot of people don't see the side of it that feeds into the traditional values that may be contradictory or problematic. Like, for example, a lot of women will want chivalry. Chivalry is based in the idea that the woman is lesser, so that the things that like holding the door, you know, fixing a car, or things that women want, is based in the whole mindset that you are lesser. Even when it comes down to marriage and seeking out a mate, the whole idea around hypergamy, though I don't necessarily particularly disagree with it, My biggest pushback on it is that people are willing to participate in it and not necessarily accept the outcomes of it. As it relates to modern society. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify before we continue. So you're saying you don't have a necessarily problem with the practice, but you have a problem with people who want the best of both worlds. So they treat it like an a la carte. They treat it as, I want the traditions, but I don't want the necessarily restriction of the traditions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I don't necessarily have an issue with the woman who is seeking a man of higher value or being in a position to where he can provide and that she can be in a role where she doesn't necessarily have to particularly do certain things. Or even on the other side, because I'm not necessarily, even though I don't necessarily agree with feminism, you can have that. You can have the freedom of choice. My biggest thing is just accept what comes with it. If you want to be an alpha in any, whether you be male or female, you need to accept that you are going to attract beta, period. Whether you're male or female, your energy, the way that you move, the way that you approach life in terms of leading and dominating, you're going to attract people who want to follow. And so with you being man or woman, this goes back to the accountability measures. Like, I would love if people could, whatever conceptual ideology they prefer, is to live with the consequences of said ideology.
That's like asking a drunk to deal with their hangovers.
Look,
where am I lying?
We all responsible.
We all are deemed by life to be responsible, but do we all accept that responsibility?
If you don't, that's not on me. I can't force it upon you.
That's a whole nother conversation,
Yeah, like,
a whole nother day. Like,
if you don't want to necessarily accept what comes with what it is you're asking for, that's a whole nother issue. But even when it comes down to when we talk about the ecosystems that are created that people complain about, like I joked about, patriarchy, it's like people capitulate to patriarchy because when you talk about, the pattern matching and people looking for relationships that what we call in 2021 goals, people strive for that, and what they don't understand is that whole model in itself, the power couple,
it's Victorian.
It's very highly Victorian, and I don't necessarily think that people understand that when you talk about Victorian is everything that people say that they kind of are against, but the way that they navigate and move within their relationships is everything that is toxic to their own testament. Mm-hmm. I don't think certain things are toxic, but to their own testament, when you talk about,
they might call you QAnon with that. You might call us Black Minute. That shit is funny.
I ain't got no beef with nobody, man. I'm just trying to get people to understand that when you ask for a particular thing, you have to accept what is on the other side of it. Whether it comes to relationships, whether it comes to professional relationships, whether it comes to platonic relationships, whether it comes to any type of relationship, you have to accept that. If you want to be alpha, accept what comes with being alpha. If you want to be, and if we want to take away those type of terminologies, if we want to talk about leaders, Ted Cruz just got caught out for going to vacation.
You talking about cruising?
Yeah.
Can cruise.
He just got caught out for going on vacation. And, as we were discussing earlier, a lot of people, mayors, people behind closed doors, feel the way that the Texas mayor did. I don't want a specific city.
Yeah, because there's a lot of different cities.
I was about to say.
You got Austin, Houston, but I can get what you're saying, Dallas. You got a lot of major cities, but I think what you're basically saying is that the reality of these roles that cannot be on in the front street, when you work in the industry, you understand that everyone has pretty much the same frustrations, is that there's certain things there's certain things that my role cannot do that I need the people to participate in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I think about? This is a quick aside. I hope I go on a tangent to throw y'all off. You know what the government is?
What?
A vampire. Because the government literally can't come in unless you invite them in.
Vampires can't come in if you let them?
You gotta invite vampires.
I know the devil. And
I thought they just couldn't be out in the daylight.
No, you gotta invite them in, son.
Oh.
That's why I treat the government like a vampire. It's like, oh, you gotta be invited in. Eminent domain is the only thing that allows the government to seize anything without proper cause. Think about that shit. You literally have to have eminent domain to seize things without proper cause. Other than that, the government has to have a reason to be on private property. And a lot of people invite the government on their private property and think that the government is supposed to take care of them. It's like, we don't.
And they're nice.
Yeah, it's like government officials, as a former appointee, I don't think about you. I think about 77,000 people. That was my role, to think about 77,000 people. I couldn't think about an individual because you as an individual don't matter to an entire city. And I think that's what people fail to recognize in relationships as well. It's like your individual relationship does not matter to the whole well-being of an economic system that, to your point, tradition is based upon. People gotta remember, we didn't get these things from nowhere. They come from somewhere.
I would agree.
Practices don't come out of a vacuum.
I would agree, and I don't think people fully vet them. But before we get too deep, I'm gonna go ahead and pass the baton to Quan. To what take or what opinion do you have on the subject matter that we're discussing right now?
For me, when I went and did my actual research on who George Elliot is, it's like, man, she's my hero. You know, I'm for real, she's my hero. Because at the end of the day, like, I love the way that she had a real acceptance for what it is in life she was. She was told that she had face deficiencies, and that's the way she navigated. She wasn't ashamed of it. She was not ashamed of having average looking features or being an average person.
This man, I love how he massages the ugly truth. It's like,
no, because I'm ugly. Like, this is why I'm not on camera. You know what I'm saying? I stay in my lane. But no, y'all laugh, but for real, like, we need to really examine why we play so much into these beauty standards. For real. Because on one end, I don't understand how you could be so pro against all of these things, patriarchy, blah, 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 this. Everything is wrong in the world, but yet if an ugly girl is standing right next to you, you got everything to say about her. Like, that's where the unity just, for me, that whole thing just falls apart, because it's like, yo, how does everybody rock with something like Black Girl Magic, but the creator doesn't get the credit because she don't look like somebody ever created? She's like a fat, average sort of looking woman.
Got you. I see what you're saying, but what makes me laugh is that when people use the word ugly, it's like most people aren't ugly as far as they just aren't interesting, because ugly is still attractive. You look at something ugly and like you can't look away from it. But that's me speaking as a person who loves art. It's like art isn't always appealing in the sense that it's aesthetically appeasing. Everything and everyone who's aesthetically appeasing, I mean, I'm gonna say this. I'm looking to this camera and I'm gonna look into this one. Everybody who's aesthetically appeasing isn't interesting. There's a lot of people who are aesthetically appeasing that I literally wouldn't give 3 seconds of the day. It's like you think you're attractive to everyone, but you're boring. You follow into the same trends, you follow into the same things. It's like this whole thing about cute. And this is where I wish we had a whole panel of different Black American women, ADOS, here to talk about the colorism that happens in our community, to talk about the different features that are champion the different features that aren't championed, because going by Asia, Dabajar, a Northern African Algerian writer who talks about the woman's gaze inside of Assistant to Scheherazade. She really talks about how women judge each other. It's like part of that beef between women I ain't got nothing to do with, because I'm not there. As a dude, I'm gonna say this as a dude, as cis heterosexual male, there's a lot more cute women in the world than there aren't. Because after a while they start to look alike. It's like, same facial feature, same this. Personality matters more than anything else. Because if I can't deal with your personality, you frustrate me.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on that, for me, why I reference and I'm harping on the beauty standard so hard is because of the fact that people don't realize, like, when you're labeled beautiful to the eye, you lose a lot of agency. Like, people do not realize the demands that are placed upon people that we deem to be beautiful. Like, that becomes, I would say, being beautiful becomes a liability for most people than it is more of an asset, because you have to now navigate life through the eyes of other people. And you don't have any say, because you got to capitulate to these things because you were given a label of beauty. That is why I love being motherfucking ugly, because don't nobody give a shit, and I don't give a shit either. What's up? You know what I'm saying? Hey.
Did he really go there?
It is what it is. But no, for real. But this is how George Elliot was able to move, because she had the agency to do what it is she wanted to do. She did not have to capitulate to, oh, you're beautiful, so you can't act this way, or you're not supposed to do this because you do, you know?
I get what you're saying.
You don't have to fall in line with that bullshit, man.
I get what you're saying. This man over here, he's quiet right now. What's going on? The black
Hey, see, you beautiful.
No, I'm just trying to track everything. Man. In terms of combo, I got this up here in terms of the YouTube, seeing if we got any comments. And then let me see. Oh, no, knock me out. Boom. But keep it pushing while I go ahead and do that. I don't necessarily disagree.
Well, which point?
Ugly people got it easy.
He said ugly people got it easy,
hey, listen,
son.
I'm telling you.
Because people, no, when you dress, look, talk, and walk a certain way, man, people think you're this thing that I don't really care.
I don't really care.
And it's a part of it that you don't understand the process of what I have to go through to even appeal to you in this way. And so it's not necessarily appreciated, because it's also, when it comes down to it, if I tell you and sit on everything that I am and explain to you what I've had to do to be in the space that I am, then it's like, oh, you ain't, like you said, you ain't got to do all that, or you ain't got to be like that. And it's like, but you want to be in my space, you want to be around me, but you won't be willing to allow me to bring you up to my speed.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's stressful.
Through,
you said it's stressful.
It's stressful. That's why I still get dressed in the dark.
It
don't matter. If the match, it don't match. I don't think my socks match right now. It don't matter.
Who wears socks? I just rotate my shoes.
that is wild.
I'm wild. I'm a wild child.
You gotta wear socks.
Nah, son. You gotta change your different. You gotta wear shoes at different times so that the sweat don't build up, and so you don't get that bacteria building up, so you don't get that smell.
I do not condone. I condone not wearing socks. Socks are foot prisons.
But let's get back to it though, for real, before we move on to the next one. Because I want to bring all the thing back home. I get what you're saying about Mary Ann Wilson not necessarily, is it Wilson? No, it's Evans. Mary Ann Evans not necessarily being seen as traditionally attractive, But we also, please go watch the whole lecture by Professor Ashton at Grantham College. We also, this is my life. We have to talk about the life of a beautiful mind. And that's what she presents, a beautiful mind. That's what I bring, a beautiful mind. And when your mind is able to understand other people and listen to other people in the depth in which George Elliot is able to do, I really fought for this amongst ourselves for this conversation. It wasn't a hard fight at all. I kind of get my way. In the sense that when Black people start talking about, and I'm talking about Black adults, start talking about who's valuable, who isn't valuable, they're talking about this Victorian life underneath. And they really begin to think that as long as I have this Victorian life, as long as I have the husband who is high value,
Victorian life.
Well, they don't know what Victorian life really is because we don't. You funny because we don't actually teach white history. We teach white stories. Woo! I'm gonna say that again. We don't teach white history. We teach white stories. Don't get me in trouble. Everyone loves their legend. We butcher each other by saying you're not valuable enough. You're not valuable enough. You ugly. Hey, ugly. That's the whole thing. That's a whole conversation. Hey, ugly. And it's like, until you really sit down with this material, until you really begin to understand this material, until you understand how these lives actually, and this is the importance of driving home the scholastic focus of Marianne Wilson, aka George Elliot, who I won't call George Elliot out the rest of this. George Elliot really examines the life that she's living. So it isn't just a thing of, oh, this is how I think life is to be. It's Gustave Flaubert coming to us and saying, this is how life is. And if this is coming from a quote unquote white woman from a privileged position, then what makes anyone who says that they're oppressed, who come from 246 years of being a chattel slave, who's adopting the same train of thought of Middlemarch, as in you are only valuable if you make a high income, what makes you think that your life is going to be any better if the people who did it long before you still live a life in which they struggle to find marital happiness? So that's one of the main reasons I want to bring George Elliot in. Before we begin to tell a person, oh, you're a broke nigga, you ain't got this, broke niggas don't deserve pussy and all this other stuff, who is making a man broke? Who is making a woman deemed quote unquote ugly? And that's the conversation I really want to bring to bear with Black Americans. It's like you're following a very white and Victorian life, but you can't follow that life and also condemn the very people you follow, because then you condemn yourself.
And who told you was that much better than whoever you critiqued?
That's true too. That's true too.
If anybody wanted to call in before we go to the next clip, go ahead, you got the Zoom, did you drop the link?
Please.
Facebook too?
Yep, it's on the Facebook.
It's on the Facebook, drop the link, go ahead, y'all can call in, boom, 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 we here. Now, if you watching still right now, go ahead, like the video, share the video, comment. Let me see. I feel like we got some comments down below. The goddamn iPad is messing up. Apple gonna fail me now.
Don't do that. Tim Cook will come after us.
Come on, man. Don't look at me like that. Hell with Tim Cook.
Woo.
And Silicon Valley. They don't want.
Oh, Elon sucks is leaving it.
I was about to say, I ain't about to lie. I don't want no smoke.
You know, they got lawyers.
They sound like Trump. All you need is liberals to come on and be like, oh, silence that nigga. You be like, you're done. You're done, son. Because again, man, look. I am of the Democratic Party, but no way am I naive to believe that a lot of the stances and a lot of the things that people weaponize is problematic, because what they don't understand is it's going to eventually be used against you. You think you winning right now, but look here. Hey, these people out here is crazy, and they on your side right now, but when you start speaking against their money, they going to start acting a little funny. You know what I'm saying?
This is all hood games. So we ain't got no comments.
No, we ain't got none. So we're gonna move on to the next. And I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen. Again, if y'all want to participate, look, man.
I'm here for the
For
jokes.
everybody. We do. You don't gotta be no super genius, no none of that. Call in, talk your shit, say what you guys say, do what you gotta do. It's about the conversation. Because a lot of these things I be seeing on Facebook, everybody got all of the shit to talk, but don't never want to debate on the merit. They just want to feel.
They just want to feel. That's funny.
Because what I'm not going to do is say you going to just feel. I use articles and stuff for a reason because though I have my positions, look, I'll even level the playing field. If people want to call in and then drop whatever they want to drop in the thread as an article, I got 2 screens right here. I'll pull up your article and read off what you want to read off. And we can go toe to toe. Because right now, I'm sick of the complacency. The society. It's kind of gross and disgusting. Everybody want to your point, romanticize it, but for what? Romanticize rolling off the hill?
Yeah, so it hurts less.
No pun intended.
You talking AOC future? Stop.
Man, I'm talking about a lot of people's future. This shit about to go kaput. Because it sounds like ain't nobody getting nothing. But before we get
so ain't nobody getting nothing.
ain't nobody getting nothing.
You talking $3,200 over a year that people still waiting for? You still waiting for $3,200.
But we're gonna go ahead and go in. And this is the next clip. I'm gonna go ahead
and his married lover, the Princess von Wittgenstein, they escaped for a while the inevitable scandal and disapproval back home in England, where, it must be said, Chapman, Dickens, Wilkie Collins, and many other respectable men shared their lives, usually in secret, with a wife and a mistress. In Weimar, and consorting with the composer Franz Liszt and his married lover, the Princess von Wittgenstein, they escaped for a while the inevitable scandal and disapproval back home in England, where, it must be said, Chapman, Dickens, Wilkie Collins, and many other respectable men shared their lives, usually in secret, with a wife and a mistress.
A lot of men share wives in life with a mistress. Again, I passed off the first one, so I'm gonna pass off the second one too.
Bring us back in the room. Yeah, just stop the screen sharing. Entanglements! Entanglements! Tell me, Will and Jada, I'm speaking to you directly. Where are you eating different from white people? Tell me, Will and Jada. I want to be on Red Table Talks. Let's have this conversation. Tell me when you're not perpetuating and purporting to be valuable people for Black communities, but the only thing I gotta do is mimic old white people. Let me know. Because, you know, as a black cis man who is straight, there's a lot of projecting of what white, powerful, straight men have done to everybody else, onto us. The not so very smart brothers called Black men, the white men of the Black community, like that's not possible. Since we walked off the plantation, most of us have been sent to the prison system. So we don't have the same institutional power. Convict leasing and everything else. We don't have the same institutional power, anything else to do that. But even if that's, because I'm not making no excuses for no Black man. Bill Cosby, I don't like you. Everyone else is champion for you. I don't care about your legacy. I done read your books. Everything about you is respectability, so I kind of don't care. But right there, when we talk about Franz Liszt and Dickens, we're always told to be this powerful man. We're always told to ascribe to this level of societal position, as if being at a certain level of society makes you a moral person. And it's like, what I love about George Elliot, what I love about Professor Ashton is that they bring that down to reality. And that's biographical. That's not about the book, Middlemarch. That's really a snippet from the biography of George Elliot, or Murray and Evans, about how these notable men used to live their lives with a mistress. In the Victorian era, this was a given. This was a given. The wife was the woman you married because she made sense societally. Mm-hmm. The mistress is the woman you was with because she made fun. She made your life fun. So your duty to the household as a Victorian man wasn't to be faithful or monogamous. It was to keep the money coming in. And so again, when we start talking about, I don't want no scrub. Scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me. I need a baller. If you want that type of individual, you gotta understand, like Puss said. Holler at me. Like Puss said, is either you wanna eat or live with it. What you gonna do? It's a whole lot of holes in the baller nigga matrix. If we all make the status, or we all, I'm saying society, because I'm not even going about men or women, and we all make the man that's supposed to have certain access to the eroticism of life, being the man that has the money, then you have a whole lot of people who are missing out on actual relationships because they're chasing a status, they're chasing an image. And as you can see through George Elliot, through a whole lot of different marriage plots, it doesn't necessarily guarantee happiness. So if we're sitting here and saying, well, I don't want a guy that's broke, Cardi B. I want a guy that has money. You're not the only one that wants a guy that has money. Mm-hmm. You're not the only one that wants to ride around in a nice ass car and everything else. You're not the only one, because you have now made the societal position being with someone who has things, not any substance, things. And again, what I love about George Elliot, what I love about the Victorian times, what I love about bringing this to bear is that Lemonade. Lemonade is all about dealing with a powerful man and wanting to be with a powerful man, even
when
though.
You talking about Lemonade, you talking about Beyonce?
Beyonce, and I'm talking about Hove, because a lot of things that Jay-Z, Sean S. Carter does is Victorian. I'm looking directly into the camera. It's very Victorian. So I'm unamused by it. I'm unentertained by it. Because if you want to model to me a lifestyle that I'm supposed to aspire to, the lifestyle that you want me to aspire to is one that has already been articulated by George Elliot, by Edith Wharton, by Jane Austen. It's not a life in which I see any marital happiness, and I definitely, and I'm going to get back from behind the podium after this one, I definitely don't see the reconciliation of 240 years of being a chattel slave. Mimicking what I saw in a big house is going to make my house any more comfortable, any more safe, and make me any happier.
For me, when I saw that clip, it just crystallized everything for me in the fact that, like, you can't have it all. You cannot have it all. And it's like, we value all of the most superficial things above just being able to hold conversation. Like, for example, you have people that value the looks and all of these other things, but literally, for the most part, a lot of times you get by in life through conversations, being able to hold conversations, being able to present yourself through words in a different way, and essentially sell yourself. Like, a lot of those people, that is what's valued in that life. And when you subject yourself to just your looks, then you actually don't have the value that you say you have, because you perpetuate yourself in that state where all you have is your looks. And when you get in those spaces where you need more of that, that's when that really comes out. We've all been in those spaces.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
A person who is not trying to make it all about their looks.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about? Because what I'm hearing is you're talking about women, correct? Or people.
Yeah, just people in general. Because it could be.
So
it could be men. They get.
I was about to say, I'm beautiful as shit.
This is not funny.
Just throw it in my face, huh?
Yeah. I know I'm beautiful. I schmooze and I booze with it. It's the reason I ask you the question. It's the reason I have the question.
Mm-hmm.
Does my beauty not really matter?
So in your case,
no, not my case.
Okay.
In the case of beauty.
In the case of beauty.
In the case of beauty.
Okay. In the case of beauty, period.
I use and weaponize my beauty.
Exactly. It'll get you in the door, but it won't guarantee that you'll be able to capitalize on it. And most of the time, people are so predatory that they'll capitalize on you before you capitalize on it, because you lose a lot of agency once people recognize that they can weaponize your own beauty and that you don't have the wherewithal to really be able to combat it. Versus me, my ugly self, I'm gonna come in the room, you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna weaponize beauty against me because I know I ain't got it. So we just gonna deal with what I know versus what you know.
I get what you're saying, but there's an actress that I looked up. I had to look her up. Hedy Lamarr. I don't know if you're familiar with Hedy Lamarr.
No.
She's golden in Hollywood. To your point about beauty, Hedy Lamarr was actually a brain and a mind. That isn't her actual name, but as a stage name, Hedy Lamarr helped develop something for Radar, and they overlooked her accomplishments academically because of her beauty. But to you, Quan the poet, it's just like, this is where I really agree with Billy the Bard or William Shakespeare. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes, I do agree with that too.
So when you say that I'm ugly, it's like people, think about this. People literally stop for car crashes. It's easier to get people to stop for a car crash than it is for them to honk a horn for a protest. People love ugly. The ugly is attractive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The ugly is appealing because it's a part of life. And I get what you're coming from. Is that fantasy, and that's what happens. Money perpetuates fantasy. Physical attractiveness perpetuates fantasy. And what I'm hearing from you, and let me know if I'm wrong, if you deem physically attractive, then you're kind of trapped in playing a role of building that fantasy for people.
Yes, I do agree with that, because a lot of people, like I said, it takes time for you to be able to learn how to use those things and weaponize those things to where you can get what you want. But what happens is that it gets taken advantage of so early on, especially when you talk about women. Like a beautiful girl growing up in our neighborhoods, that gets taken advantage of within.
But that's in every community.
I mean, yeah. And
beautiful women are beautiful women.
That's what I'm saying.
That's just scary.
They lose agency from the get-up.
I don't think they lose agency. Part of their beauty is that within their agency. It's just accepting it's just being able to accept the reality and how the society currently moves. Mm-hmm. Because to Quentin's point, it is a matter of, again, on one hand, you want to capitulate to the patriarchy, but then on the other hand, you want to remove the patriarchy and be able to move and survive in a way you would like. Beauty comes at a cost, the same way intelligence comes at a cost.
Exactly.
Intelligence comes at the cost.
Anyone?
POTUS,
47, 46, 46. POTUS, anyone?
No. Intelligence comes at the cost of intellect, because intelligence is able to be weaponized by most people. Intellect, people fear because it is the thing that challenges the institutions. It is the thing that makes a person prompt a question. I don't fear intelligent people. I mean, yeah, I don't fear intelligent people. You can be intelligent all you want. I do fear intellectuals though, because intellectuals have fucking nerve to always point out
It's subconscious.
and
They're so
pick with the ideology and the framework. Intelligence can be weaponized even against the person who is intelligent. Nobody fears that. Nobody. If you're watching, nobody fears intelligence. You can be intelligent all you want to. Manipulance and malevolence trumps intelligence because nobody cares about you being smart. I'm going to use your intelligence into the best and most efficient way that it benefits me, because intelligence doesn't have a moral compass. Intelligence has no direction. It is just pure form. If you ever watch fucking, what is that, Monsters Inc., when they extracted the laughter and how that laughter was such a pure form,
It was more powerful than the fear.
that's intelligence. Niggas use it because it is a pure form. And you have people who respect the integrity of it, and then you have people who pervert it.
I get you, and I'm thinking because you and the problem, not even the problem, the challenge with you, the Black Anglo Saxon, is you a Nazi, on a Nazi, on a Nunu.
You got corrective people. People think you just call me a Nazi. you know they hear what they want to hear.
Challenge me. I want you to. You see the white papers on the website. Go to gildedsages.com, please. The white papers. We have social capital, and we also have America's Nerves. But please, I like to be challenged. I am the intelligent Leviathan. To your point, Anansi, if you don't know Anansi, and if you don't understand the difference between Anansi, who is a folklore figure, and a Nazi, social democratic of the German, quote unquote, the fall of the Weimar Republic, you need to do your history. It's not my job to teach you. You weave a web of narratives, and you understand the web of narratives and how the flies or the average person gets stuck in it. And me understanding the different ways and the complexities of narratives, people conflate intelligence with wisdom. And wisdom is about feeling, intelligence is about thinking. And I try to get people to understand all the time the difference between a person who is bookish and the difference between a person who is quote unquote street smart is that a person who is bookish understands theory, a person who is street smart understands emotion. And when you mix the two, you have a whole different monster. Because I can anticipate what you're going to do based upon not only theory, meaning the constraints of your ideological thought, but also your emotions. And what a lot of people don't understand is that, to your point, it's easy to make intelligent people frustrated because they're not used to losing. So one of my favorite things when I'm doing with FIFA or playing FIFA is that the higher I go up in divisions, I just like to crush people because it's funny. It's like you think because I'm down 3-0 that I'm sad. It's like, no, I'm not. Now we're going to get to the point where I'm going to come back and I'm going to watch you get upset because I was down 3-0, now I'm up 5-3. That's where you, to your point, I hear from you, the femme fatale, and I have an attraction to the femme fatale because you get used to the projections. You get used to people projecting upon you. And it's just like, you know what? You just pass me in your mind. And because you pass me, I'm going to use that against you. And that's where a lot of people are like, oh, I can't stand women. It's like, is it a woman's fault that you went up to her with a fantasy? Did you listen to her? Did you hear her say, that's not who I am? Did you hear her say that you are in a false belief? Did you pay attention to her silences? Did you pay attention when she stopped talking to you? First of all, did you say hello? And what a lot of dudes believe is that they're flattering a woman and they think flattery is a nice way to get women's attention. It's like, son, you are a stranger. Approach everyone you don't know like you're a stranger, including someone you're attracted to.
With that being said, we're going to move into, I just wanted to, before everybody go ahead and shift with us, if you can, like the video, share the video, comment. If you want to call in, go ahead and call in. Can you refill me up before we?
Do you want the Biden?
No, I want the
Those bubblies.
Yeah, before we move into the next segment. Because I got a quick article, and then of course we're going to talk about the Bridgerton. I've been hearing about that from people a lot. I watched the first episode. So reset. Oh,
I'm not even gonna reset. It was a perfect segue because Bridgerton also talks about that. Wait till you get to the second episode.
I just wanted to be able to go ahead and, for the sake of everybody who joining us today, when I push this back out to y'all, for y'all to have everything, go ahead and go to the gildedsages.com, gildedsages.com. Go over to our YouTube. Again, call in. Drop the link in the chat, fam, if you can. Again, please.
Oh,
pretty please.
And to your point, I was going to say, the way you feel about intelligence and intellect is how I feel about beauty and elegance.
That's fine.
Ooh.
That's fine.
That's
I think it's I do think it correlates. I just want you to drop it in there. I agree with you. We're gonna get around to that after we do this full circle, because this our round final robin. So look, man, drop that in there, because if people want to call in, this is your last option to call in. Please participate with us. Do not feel as though you need to be no fucking expert critique or whatever the hell you think that I am, or you think that he is, or Quan is. Man, look, we out here, we trying to have a conversation, we trying to build community, we trying to resolve issues. And the best way to do that is through conversation. If you disagree with me, call me and shit on me.
Before that, it's like, with that, it's like, I like people who disagree with me more than I people like, if you did, then people who agree with me. Because if you disagree, I learn.
Exactly.
I learn.
But with that being said, man, we're going to move into this Bridgerton section of the conversation, because you introduced me into this. You like the umpteenth person who told me about this. Me and Lady watched it today. I took some notes, but before I get into it, I'm gonna just go ahead and bring up a quick part of this New Yorker article from the Marriage Plot. Basically, what we've been talking about today, and it says the other side of the Marriage Plot argument concerns the happy ending. Emma Woodhouse rather than Emma Bovary. The argument here is that marriage as happily ever after is no longer valuable. That although it makes for satisfying stories, we know it to be naive, certainly without burying life. Certainly without burying on life as it is lived. Fruit in age of serial monogamy and no-fault divorce. The freedoms of contemporary life have supposedly drained the novel of both ends, robbing it not only of the possibility of tragedy, but also its opposite. What used to fall under the umbrella of realism must now be called fantasy. Once again, however, I think a close reading of the novels that supposedly rely on our ability to believe in happily ever after marriages suggests that the situation isn't really so dire for contemporary fiction. It's worth taking a look at Jane Austen's novels, because they are so often the ones held up for prime example. And I just want to go ahead and move back up into, the freedoms of contemporary life, supposedly during the novels. I'm sorry. This is about a New Yorker, Why the Marriage Plot Need Never Get Old by Adele Waldman. This is November 14, 2013.
It never gets old.
It never gets old.
It's still relevant.
It's all cyclical. All of these issues that we talk about are very cyclical.
Because they're generational.
And so what happens in that is that when we look at this article specifically, fantasy. And you watched the Bridgerton show more than I have.
I'm on episode 2.
Okay.
Too much credit.
So what I wanted to,
You said what?
I seen like one.
but what I wanted to speak to was the idea that romanticization is in itself fiction, because you remove something from the context, you remove something from the place in when it which happened and why it was happening to fulfill this worldly, secular, substanceless outcome. And so we have a lot of people chasing, to your point earlier, a lot of Victorian views and ideals without understanding the attachment to their own trauma. Because
that's a deep dive right there.
It is a very deep dive, because a lot of people would like to appeal to these particular standards, but don't necessarily want to also appeal and submit to the ideas that go along with that standard. And when we talk about this article and, you know, the Bridgerton series, which is a Netflix series produced by Rhonda Shines, which is the romanticization of the British egalitarian lifestyle.
Was it egalitarian? Because some motherfuckers do not believe in egalitarianism.
You're right.
You giving them too much credit there.
I misused the wrong word. That is a lot of credit.
No, you was giving them way more credit. You was being nice. You was being really nice.
It is elitism.
To the utmost.
To the utmost.
You was being super nice. To the point of being wrong.
As I went into it, because I heard a lot about it before you get delivered to me, you know, I like the cinematography of it. I like the visuals of it. It's very captivating. I'll start off on a good notes. I did like the storyline. The storyline was decent to the particular point of keeping me captured. Gotcha. And, you know, I had the issue, the same issue I had with Game of Thrones is the same issue I have with this. Is that it doesn't have the disclaimer
you're such a purist.
That this is based on reality, and that everything that you're living and everything that you're participating in, yes, sir.
Do you not like historical fiction?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, I get it.
I despise
it. Like you don't not like historical.
And it's not that I don't inherently like historical fiction. I don't necessarily mind it. But in the context of being an American and everything that we're trying to solve as a group of people, as a whole populace, historical fiction doesn't work, because historical fiction has been happening since the beginning of time. It's all like hodgepodge shit. Nobody knows nothing. And we gonna compile that on top of anti-intellectualism.
That's what I was getting to. So it's not that you have a problem with historical fiction. What I'm hearing is you have a problem with historical fiction replacing actual historical facts.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm listening, because I talk too damn much.
And so when I looked at it, you know, I wrote down some notes.
He's responsible. I ain't. I ain't at all.
You know, the first thing I noticed was, as we discussed earlier, is that we had Black dukes. I don't necessarily mind diversity, and I don't necessarily mind people being inserted into these things, but I would like it to be with the proper context.
So like a syllabus coming out with like the Lovecraft stories?
Yes.
So if they came out with a syllabus explaining where this is historical fiction buttressed by the historical fact.
Absolutely.
You sound like you be championing this shit. This nigga like, you gotta watch Bridgerton. Because son, they got a syllabus when it's fact and when it's fiction.
Because conceptually, I like it.
Gotcha.
Just like Game of Thrones.
So you can appreciate how entertaining it is.
power dynamics. I love you know me, I love visuals. I'm a fashion dude. I can't not love the fact that the dude came in that jump with the collar pop, bow. But at the same time, this is set. I looked it up. This is set in the 19th century. So that's 1800s. The British just recently freed their black population.
1835, yeah, you're right.
So
the old corruption.
I don't necessarily mind you being in it. I just need you to be in appropriate proximity to give people the right mindset, because we're already dealing with and battling with people who are striving for black exceptionalism.
Okay, let's dive there, because fuck this time shit. Let's dive there, right? Black exceptionalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you telling me that, when I'm not you telling me, this is my assumption. Are you saying that black exceptionalism won't overcome white supremacy?
No, it will not. It cannot.
I agree.
Because black exceptionalism is about capitulating to the institutions of whiteness. Your institutional whiteness, not necessarily yourself. And I don't think people ever separate themselves from the institutional self from the natural person.
I agree, because most people don't understand the definition between person and natural persons, and how the 13th Amendment has been used to fuck us over twice.
And my natural person and my institutional person not always conflicts. It's the reason why I drink.
You know what's funny? We having a whole conversation. I'm gonna say this shit to y'all now. We're having a whole conversation on a whole nother level. For those of you who get it, it's not illegal when the president does it. Those of you that don't get it, we're not friends. I'm so serious with this shit. You know what it is to raise your right hand and swear a fucking oath. Let's go back into Bridgerton.
Let's go back into Bridgerton.
Because you know I'm not lying.
And as I was just watching it, the dude Anthony, he battled
all characters, which Anthony is
the guy who is Lord Bridgerton. His sister is
courted to the Duke. Who knows the Black Duke?
Absolutely. And what happens is, his mother challenges him to be either the older brother or the father of the house. I resonated with that personally because, as you know, I'm my oldest child. And it's a psychological thing that I don't think a lot of women understand, that you put a toll onto a boy to become something that they're not necessarily ready for, then unfortunately push back on it.
That's the Monahan report.
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe that as I age and mature, the Monahan report is less racist and more like Chris Rock says, Black people need to be able to feel. And the one thing having a father or that parental figure that is a father allows you to do, and this isn't to degrade Black women, I understand and I know too well how much America has demanded of Black women. At the same time, go to GildedSages.com and please look up America's Nurse. I don't have a shameless plug. This is our platform. I say that to say is that a lot of Black men don't talk about how self-conscious they are about being seen as not good enough. A lot of Black men in our spaces, we need to get to a point where we need to start saying to ourselves, bro, not only are you good enough, you're doing more than a nigga that has more than you.
But how many times do we hear that?
We don't need, here's a problem with it. Too many of us want attention. We need to sit back and do what we're doing right now. I don't know if you two know how revolutionary it is for us to sit back as Black men. We sitting here, we drinking. We're talking about politics. We're talking about George Elliot. We're talking about the Victorian era. Not only we're not being disparaging towards Black women. Not only we not being disparaging towards women, we're sitting here saying Black men need to sit back and say, sometimes I just don't feel like I'm good enough.
Absolutely.
And we need to claim that as Black men and say, you know what? I just don't feel like I'm good enough. Sometimes I sit back and I don't say anything because I go out into the world that tells me I ain't shit, I ain't nobody, and I'm violent.
That's all I hear.
And the world tells me that I'm the problem, but I cry sometimes because it's like, damn, man, I did everything that my body physically allows me to do. I still feel like I ain't good enough.
And I did everything everybody told me to do.
Oh,
I went to college.
That's the
I did right by everybody. I chose all of the paths, and still you ain't an ancient nigga.
But watch the second episode and you'll see just how much I respect Shonda Rhimes, and this is why she don't get her respect, is that as an artist, when you remove the thin veil of it, Shonda Rhimes really understands the American imagination. Cheers to Shonda fucking Rhimes. You get the shit. I don't fuck with Scandal, but you get the shit.
I like
Cheers. Oh, fuck you.
I like the first few. I like the first few episodes, but no, it went
because no, for me, I don't like Black women having to constantly uplift the white family. That shit pisses me off.
But they choose it.
They don't choose it. They don't have a choice. And here's why I say they don't have a choice. If you remove our perspective as men, and if you are placed inside of that position, there's a lot of stresses that Black women have that I don't understand. There's a lot of narratives that they have to consume that I don't understand. And because I don't understand it, and being in those spaces, I begin to understand that there's a lot of role playing that's going on. There's a lot of, I'm hurting, but I can't say that I hurt that's going on. And what becomes the implicit ask of Black men is to understand that the world says fuck you and the world says fuck me. This is Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. When Nikki Giovanni asks, this is the track a little bit, when Nikki Giovanni says lie to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lie isn't as much as lie to me and say that you love me, because I know you love me. I can see it. If you wasn't there, if you did love me, you wouldn't be here. The lie is, let's pretend life is better than it really is.
Only thing I would disagree on is that they have choice. The same choice that we have to own up to. But even when we don't have necessarily choice, I would agree. Neither one of us have choice. But because I have to accept my choice, I need Black women to accept their choice. You capitulate to it.
You're such a warrior.
Nah, because in the end,
it's not a bad thing at all.
I step in the middle. And I take shit from both sides.
All sides.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I understand what you're saying, but I have zero tolerance for it, because if you want to be equal, if you want to talk about what I need to do, if you want to talk about where you stand and what you've done, because again, we young, we 30. That's it.
We are very young.
Yeah.
Especially in white culture.
That's it.
We just became aware of the world.
And with that being said, no. Accept that you carry water. Because with that being said, I will help you. You know, I will extend a hand. I'll help you fight and talk shit and do all of those things. But when it comes to it and you silence me because you want me to capitulate to the same thing that you're capitulating to, because of, like you said, and what we're talking about, access to relationships, access to status, whether it be white women or Black women. Because what nobody discusses is the patriarchy is upheld because the patriarchy has the economic wealth. And women, through hypergamy, chase the most suitable, economically valuable mate.
And that's, you know what you remind me of? You know, you gotta watch further Bridgerton. The brother, you remind me of the young woman's brother. That dynamic and how he's conflicted in what his sister wants and what he understands society demands of him.
Anthony.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I picked it up on the first episode.
Go ahead, don't talk about it. Expound and elaborate on that point.
Because when he said the thing, or when his mother held him and came in that room and told him, you either gonna be a brother, the older brother, or the father. When I assume the father role, you need to shut up. I don't care if I'm not having sex with you. And this is where women get it twisted. You can't put me in both roles when it's beneficial to you. Because what happens is there's no accountability in that.
Plausible deniability comes in.
It does. And you know, I hate plausible deniability.
I love it.
I hate it because a lot of politicians and a lot of people who have malice or malicious intent use it against those who don't necessarily understand the whole.
Before you speak, I love it as a Leviathan. And you will know why, as a Leviathan, people who play plausible deniability lose because time doesn't like plausible deniability either. You cannot deny your actions.
I know, but that's why I like mine.
But that's why I'm Machiavelli. What was you saying, Pauls? Go ahead.
Just for the information, define plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability is
it's the act of omission.
Not even the act of omission.
I didn't say that you had to do it, but you did it anyway. It's a very slippery thing. I love plausible deniability. It's a very slippery thing.
It is allowing a person to believe that you are good when in fact that your intentions were malicious. And because people are trained to give benefit of the doubt, you give them and create room,
yes,
and space for them to make other actions and create extra behavioral sequences that might not necessarily benefit the outcome of the people.
Yes, I'm gonna take from that theoretical language down to the empirical, down to my personal experience. I literally have prescriptions filled on the date of my date of birth. Literally, that were not for me. I have had a young woman in my life who had a problem. I fulfilled this prescription on her, that it was for her on my date of birth, on my birthday. It was not for me. And guess what the response was? I didn't ask you to. That's plausible deniability. That's, you did it, but I didn't ask you to do it, but I implied you should. And that's where people like me go,
or hold on.
It's like, I'm gonna kill you. You good.
Hey, Quan, you gonna have to check this one. Hashtag voluntold.
Ooh, VBs. That's exactly what deniability.
Hashtag voluntold.
When the tone told you everything, but the words ain't say shit. And people looking at you like, why are you acting that way? It's like, you have no fucking clue.
I gotta find a spelling for
it. Because it's true. I get what you're saying. But then again, that drives home the point about how Victorian our lives really are. And how much we really emulate. And I know I sound like Thomas Sowell at this point. I kind of don't give a shit. No, not kind of. I actually don't give a shit. Excuse me, our lives really are that we mimic the Southern plantation life. And what I don't like about the 246 years of chattel slavery outside of being dehumanized is that people believe that we were dehumanized and we accepted being dehumanized. I don't know no black person that don't talk back. Have you ever met a black person that don't talk back?
Yeah.
funny because I agree.
Nah, but
I got you.
I absolutely feel you.
And I'm gonna change. No, look, I'm gonna change your motherfucking way we talk about bitch.
But I told you that was gonna become a Democrat anyway.
But I feel you on that because, like, yo, the slaves read better than half the people that's in school now.
Because the slaves, and I'm gonna agree with you, because the slaves, they call it talking to pages. There's no goddamn reason with the Freedmen Bureau. Yes, we went on a tangent, and yes, I don't care. The Freedmen Bureau came to the South, and you had 86-year-old people in the goddamn schoolhouse trying to learn how to read. There's no goddamn reason you got a person who was raised in slavery, born into the shit, lived to be 86 years old, and knows the value of goddamn reading, and your black ass won't read. That pisses me off to no fucking end, and I don't care. If you are black in a fucking America, I don't care if you $8 or not, and you don't read, you're not my friend. All right. But going back to the Bridgerton shit, because that shit's gonna be important.
The Bridgerton shit is important. But what we gonna do is we gonna end it tonight.
Oh damn. This is an ongoing conversation.
It's always an ongoing conversation. You think I should stop? No, we talking. We need people to come back and understand that this is an ongoing conversation and not just some pop culture conversation.
Because it really isn't.
We need y'all to be engaged and we need y'all to say what y'all going to say, challenge what we say, because this is an ongoing conversation. This is a conversation about the whole collective. So with that being said, man, if you still watching, like the video, share the video, comment. But as I am going ahead and moving out, check out DC Young Democrats, dcyds.org. If you want to be engaged in the political process.
I'm thinking about joining these sluts.
Yeah, join our sluts.
Yeah, I'm with it too.
Please.
Are you with it? All right.
Come over, join, hit that. We got committees coming up. We just got a new board installed, and so we're trying to move that. And then if you are independent and you hell bent and you just want to help out, you know, and come through the artistic pathway, you have Gilded Sages.
Beautiful faces.
Gilded
Sages. The poet.
Yes.com. If you want some graphic designs, we have that there.
If you want a great guest, I am here.
Check out the white papers. Check out everything that we have. Again, always send us suggestions. And with that being said, please follow us, like us, check out our YouTube. That's at GildedSages.com. Go ahead, do that, please. We are trying to build here. So the next question that I wanted to ask, you know, is about this whole HR 40 thing. You know, I've seen and heard a lot about the HR 40 thing, but I'll say, man, that shit trash. I seen what happened. I seen what went down. You know, they had Herschel Walker. They had another bunch of people in terms of
who the fuck is Herschel Walker?
Football, some dumbass football player. Yeah, dumb as hell. I'm gonna go ahead and read the goddamn
that shit is
back play and all of that, so that we can have a discussion about it, or possibly have a discussion about it. But it is what it is. Did you have anything that you wanted to say?
When the president does it, it's not illegal. That's it. Trigger date.
What you got to say about this whole HR 40, all the bullshit that we talked about tonight? Anything?
Man, listen, when all else fails, do what it is you have to do to survive. That's the great Brad Human, my favorite philosopher. That nigga didn't give a fuck.
I would disagree. Don't do what you have to do to survive. Because politicians weaponize that shit.
Real scary.
I don't necessarily want to do what you do to survive, because I will weaponize it against yourself. But yeah, man, this HR 40. Let us know if y'all want to see. Drop in the comments even after. Whew, it's crazy, man. These motherfuckers is out here wilding. They didn't stack the odds. 8 temps out of the panelists are in opposition.
HR 40 is the next show. I know for a fact it's going to